9 months had passed since the Galactic Council's order. Most human colonies were empty now. Ships full of sad people arrived on Earth every day. They had left homes, farms, and dreams behind. Director Sungmin Cho didn't have time to watch the ships land. He was too busy in his underground lab. The Antarctic ice above kept his work secret, not even from aliens, but from most humans too. "How is the test going?" he asked as he entered the main lab room. Dr. Hye-Jin Kang looked up from her screen. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept much. "Better than expected. We've created a stable pocket dimension about 1 meter across." Sungmin smiled. "And the time difference?" 1 hour inside equals 1 minute outside." Hye-Jin pointed to a small clear box where a clock was ticking very fast. "We're getting there." Sungmin walked around the lab. 200 of Earth's smartest people worked here. Some studied the dimensional pocket. Others worked on new ship designs. In one corner, a group built tiny spy devices that would stay in council space after humans left. A young engineer named Do-Hyun Lee waved Sungmin over. "Director, I found something interesting in the council communications." Do-Hyun was only 25, but already a genius with computers. He had been studying how the council species talk to each other across space. "They don't encrypt their quantum communications properly," Do-Hyun explained, pointing to lines of code on his screen. "They haven't needed to. They've been at peace so long they're careless." "So we can listen to them?" asked Sungmin. "Better than that." Do-Hyun grinned. "We can listen without them knowing. I've designed receivers that look like space junk. We'll leave thousands at the edge of our system." Sungmin patted Do-Hyun's shoulder. "Excellent work." Just then, Admiral Tae-ho Park entered the lab with Ambassador Ji-un Kim. Both looked tired. 3 months left before the deadline, Tae-ho said without greeting. "How are we doing?" Sungmin led them to a conference room and closed the door. On the table, he placed a small device that projected a 3D image of their solar system. "We're making progress. Hye-Jin's team has created a working dimensional pocket. Small now, but the theory is sound. Do-Hyun has found a way to spy on council communications, and our new ships are nearly ready." Ji-un leaned forward. "Will we be ready in time?" Sungmin hesitated. "For a full evacuation to a pocket dimension?" "No, but we have another plan." He touched the projector, and the image changed to show the outer planets of the solar system. "We've been building huge underground bases on Pluto, Eris, and several large asteroids, places the Council never visits. We'll put our research teams there. With the dimensional technology, they'll keep working while the rest of humanity appears to follow the Council's rules." Tae-ho nodded slowly. "A 2-part strategy. Most people stay in the inner system looking harmless, but our real work continues in secret." "Exactly," said Sungmin. "And once the dimensional technology is ready for large-scale use, we'll create our own space where we can develop freely." Ji-un smiled for the first time in months. "I like it. The Council thinks they've caged the tiger, but the tiger is planning its escape." 3 months passed quickly. On the final day before the Council's deadline, Admiral Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the ISS Defiant again. This time, the ship was at the edge of the solar system, marking the boundary humans could not cross. Across from the Defiant, 3 huge Council warships waited. Each was 5 times bigger than Earth's largest vessel. Their weapons could destroy the Defiant in seconds. The main screen lit up, showing Counselor Azarath's snake-like face. "Admiral Park," the alien said, "the deadline has arrived. Are all human ships and citizens back in your home system?" Tae-ho nodded. "They are. We have followed your order, though we still protest it." "Noted. We will be placing monitor stations at these coordinates." A list of numbers appeared on a side screen. "They will alert us if any human ship attempts to leave your system." "Understood," said Tae-ho, keeping his face neutral. "One more thing," added Azarath. "Our sensors detect unusual activity near your outer planets." "What are you doing there?" Tae-ho was ready for this. "Mining operations. Without access to our former colonies, we need resources from our own system." "Is that also forbidden?" Azarath's eyes narrowed. "No, but we will be watching." The screen went dark. Captain Sujin turned to Tae-ho. "That was close. Do they suspect?" "They're cautious, not suspicious," said Tae-ho. "There's a difference." The Defiant turned back toward Earth. As they passed Neptune, Tae-ho ordered a course change. "Take us to Pluto base first. I want to see how they're progressing." Hours later, the Defiant approached a seemingly empty area of Pluto. But as they got closer, A hidden door in the icy surface opened. The ship descended into a massive underground hangar where dozens of people in cold-weather gear waited. Taeho stepped off the ship and was greeted by Dr. Hai-jin. "Admiral, welcome to Freedom Base," she said with a proud smile. "We have something to show you." She led him through tunnels cut into Pluto's ice until they reached a large, round room. In the center was a glowing blue disk about 3 meters wide. "Our first full-size dimensional gateway," Hai-jin announced. "It leads to a space about 1 kilometer across right now." "The time ratio is 10-to-1, meaning?" asked Taeho. 10 hours pass inside for every 1 hour out here," explained Hai-jin. "We're working to increase both the size and the time difference." Taeho walked around the glowing disk. "Can I see inside?" Hai-jin nodded and handed him a special suit. "The environment is stable, but we take precautions." Once suited up, Taeho stepped through the blue light. There was a strange pulling sensation, and then he was in a white room where about 20 scientists worked at various stations, but what caught his eye was the window. Outside was not the blackness of space, but a swirling mix of colors that reminded him of oil on water. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Hai-jin, who had followed him through. "That's the dimensional boundary. We're in a bubble of space-time that we created." Taeho touched the window. "And the council can't detect this?" "No, to them nothing exists here. We're between normal dimensions." Taeho felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time since the council's decree, he felt real hope. "How soon until we can move significant numbers of people and resources here?" he asked. "We need about 6 more months to create a space large enough for a small city," said Hai-jin. "But once we have that, we can expand more quickly." Taeho nodded. "Then we have our path forward." 1 year after the banishment order, Earth seemed quiet and accepting of its fate. Council monitor ships regularly patrolled the edges of the solar system, watching for any human ships trying to leave. They found none. What they didn't see were the small, stealthy ships that carried scientists, engineers, and resources to the outer planets. They didn't detect the growing bases hidden under the ice of distant worlds, and they certainly didn't know about the dimensional spaces that were being created. In his office on Earth, President Han met with Taeho, Jiun, and Sung-min. "The council representatives seem satisfied with our compliance," said Jiun. "They think we've accepted our place." President Han smiled. "And our real progress?" Sung-min placed a small device on the table that showed a 3D image of a large space with buildings, laboratories, and even parks. Sanctuary Alpha is now 10 kilometers across and growing. The time ratio is 50-to-1. We have 5,000 of our best minds working there. Technology is advancing rapidly. Taeho added, "Do-hyun's listening devices are working perfectly. We hear everything the council says. They've already started arguing among themselves. Without us to worry about, old rivalries are returning." President Han leaned back in his chair. "So while they think they've contained us, we're actually moving forward faster than ever." "Yes," said Sung-min. "And there's more. Hai-jin's team has made another breakthrough. They've found a way to create pocket dimensions that connect to any point in space." Jiun's eyes widened. "You mean we could create a doorway from here to anywhere? Even outside our solar system?" "Exactly," said Sung-min. "The council is watching for our ships leaving through normal space. They won't see us stepping through doors." President Han stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people went about their daily lives unaware of the secret progress being made. "How long until we're ready to show the council what we've become?" he asked. Taeho exchanged looks with Sung-min. 5 years, maybe less. "Remember, for every year out here, 50 pass in the sanctuary." President Han turned back to them, his face determined. "Then we wait. We let them think they've won. We play the part of the defeated, the contained. And all the while, we grow stronger." As Taeho left the meeting, he looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the council races were going about their business, secure in the knowledge that they had dealt with the human problem. They had no idea what was coming. Humans had been banished, pushed back, confined to their home system, but instead of breaking them, it had only focused their legendary determination. In their dimensional sanctuaries, time moved faster, and human innovation raced ahead. The council had tried to clip humanity's wings. Instead, they had given them the time and motivation to build something that could soar higher than the council had ever dreamed. Admiral Taeho Park stood tall as he looked out the large window of Earth's biggest spaceship, the ISS Defiant. His dark uniform was clean and perfect, just like his calm face. But inside he felt angry and worried. On the big screen in front of him, 12 alien faces stared down. They were the Galactic Council, the group that ruled space, and they had just made a decision that would change everything for humans. The species known as humans is too dangerous and unpredictable, said High Counselor Morvax, a tall blue alien with 4 eyes. You must leave all council space and go back to your home system within 1 year. Any human found outside your solar system after that will be arrested. Tejo kept his face calm even though he wanted to shout. Humans had only discovered how to travel faster than light 30 years ago. In that short time, they had started colonies on 17 planets, made friends with 26 alien species, and even improved many technologies that the Council said couldn't be made better. That was the real problem. Humans were too good at making things better. Next to Tejo, Ambassador Ji-eun Kim couldn't hide her anger as well. On what grounds? We have broken no laws. We have not hurt anyone. Your rate of making new things is disturbing, said Counselor Azarath, who looked like a giant snake with arms. You learn too fast. You change too quickly. The natural order needs balance, and humans upset that balance. Another council member, a rock-like being named Drav, nodded. Your species went from simple rockets to faster-than-light travel in just 200 years. That's 10 times faster than any other species. You're dangerous, Jiun stepped forward. She was shorter than Tejo, but just as brave. So we're being punished for being good at learning? For being creative? You are being contained before you become a threat, said Morvax. The decision is final. 1 year to leave council space. The meeting is over. The screens went dark. Ji-eun turned to Tai-ho, her eyes wide with disbelief. They can't do this. We have rights. Taeho's hand formed a fist, then relaxed. They just did do it. And they have the ships and weapons to make it happen. The ship's captain, a serious woman named Captain Su-jin Kang, walked up to them. Admiral, what are your orders? Taeho took a deep breath. Set course for Earth. We need to tell everyone what happened. And we need to start planning. As the Defiant turned back toward Earth, Taeho watched the stars. Humans had worked so hard to get here, to be part of the galactic community. Now they were being thrown out because they were too good, too fast, too clever. But Taeho knew one thing about humans. They didn't give up easily. 3 days later, the leaders of Earth and all human colonies met in a big room in Seoul. The room was packed with presidents, prime ministers, colony governors, and military leaders. Everyone was talking at once until President Han of the United Earth government stood up. Quiet, please. We need to think clearly. The room grew silent. President Han was a small man with white hair, but his voice was strong. The Galactic Council has given us 1 year to leave their space. That means we must remove 17 colonies and bring home over 12 million people. A colony leader stood up. My people don't want to leave. We've built a life on New Busan. Mine either, said another leader. We just finished the farms on Terra Nova. Taeho watched as everyone started arguing again. He looked at Ji-eun, who sat next to him, writing notes. Finally, he stood up and the room got quiet again. The Council has 3,000 warships, he said simply. We have 42. We can't fight them. Not now. The hard truth hung in the air. Humans were brave but not stupid. Fighting now would mean death, so we just give up? Asked a general with an angry face. Ji-eun stood up next. No, we obey for now, but we also prepare. She touched a button and a map of space appeared above the table. The Council controls this area. A large section of the map turned red, but there's a lot of space they don't control. The rest of the map stayed blue. They're forcing us to leave their party, she said with a small smile. So we'll have our own party and make it better. President Han nodded slowly. A strategic retreat. We go back to our solar system, but we keep developing, keep getting stronger. And keep watching them, added Taeho. If they fear what we might become, let's become something truly impressive. As the meeting continued, plans were made. Ships would start bringing colonists home. Resources would be moved. And most importantly, human scientists would work harder than ever to develop new technologies. The next day, Taeho visited the Combined Sciences Division, a huge complex of buildings and labs under the ocean near Hawaii. Director Sung-min Cho met him at the entrance. Sung-min was a tall, thin man who had helped design Earth's first faster-than-light engine. I heard what happened, said Sung-min as they walked through the labs. The aliens are afraid of us, Taeho nodded. They say we move too fast, learn too quickly. Sung-min stopped walking and laughed. Then we'll have to move even faster now. They entered a large room where hundreds of scientists were working. Sungmin pointed to a woman with short hair who was writing complex equations on a clear board. That's Dr. Hyejin Kang. She's been studying the Council's own scientific papers. They publish everything, you know. They're very proud of their science. Taeho watched Dr. Kang work. And she found something interesting. The Council abandoned a whole field of quantum physics 3,000 years ago because it didn't fit their beliefs. But Hyejin thinks it's the key to something amazing. Hyejin noticed them watching and came over. Up close, Taeho could see she was young, maybe 30, with bright, excited eyes. "Admiral Park," she said, bowing slightly. "I'm glad you're here. I think I've found something that can save humanity." She led them to a computer screen showing what looked like folded fabric. The Council uses hyperspace lanes for faster-than-light travel. Very stable, very safe. But this theory suggests we could create our own pocket of space. A dimension where we control the rules, Taeho frowned. A hiding place? Much better, Hyejin said with a smile. A place where time moves differently. We could spend 100 years developing technology, while only 1 year passes outside. When we return, we'll be so advanced the Council won't be able to stop us. Taeho's eyes widened. Is this possible? Theoretically, yes, said Sungmin. But we need time and resources. You'll have them, promised Taeho. The president will approve anything that helps humanity survive. As he left the science complex, Taeho looked up at the sky. The stars weren't visible in the daylight, but he knew they were there. And somewhere out there, the Council races were probably celebrating their decision to get rid of the troublesome humans. They didn't realize they had just challenged the most determined species in the galaxy. Humans had climbed out of caves to reach the stars in a blink of cosmic time. They had overcome every obstacle their harsh planet had thrown at them. And now they faced a new challenge. The Council thought they were containing a problem. Instead, they were creating their greatest rival. In the following weeks, the Great Evacuation began. Human ships traveled back and forth between Earth and the colonies, bringing people home. News broadcasts showed sad families leaving homes they had built on new worlds. Some were angry, some were crying, but all were coming back. Taeho watched from his office as the ships landed. Each day, more humans returned to Earth. It looked like defeat. But in secret labs all over Earth, scientists were working harder than ever. Dr. Hyejin's theory was being tested. New ships were being designed. And special sensors were being built to watch the Council even after humans left. The Council had tried to stop human progress by banishing them. They didn't realize they had only given humans a reason to progress even faster. Taeho smiled as he watched another colony ship land. The Council thought this was the end of humanity's story in the stars. They were wrong. It was just the beginning. 10 years passed in normal space. For the Galactic Council, these years were filled with growing problems. 3 member species had started fighting each other over trading routes. Others argued about who was most important. Without humans to worry about, they had turned against each other. But for humanity, these 10 years had been different. Inside the dimensional sanctuaries where time moved faster, nearly 500 years of progress had occurred. Fleet Commander Junho Yoon stood on the bridge of the HSS Ascendant, humanity's newest and most advanced ship. It had been built entirely inside Sanctuary Alpha, using technologies the Council races couldn't even imagine. The Ascendant didn't look impressive from the outside. It was designed to appear like a normal human cargo ship if any Council vessels saw it. But inside it was filled with wonders. Junho was a tall man with serious eyes. He had been born in the sanctuary and had never seen Earth with his own eyes, though he had studied it in great detail. To him, the sanctuary was home. Status report, he ordered, his voice calm and steady. Science Officer Mina Choi touched her neural interface, a small device attached to her temple that connected her mind directly to the ship's systems. This technology alone was centuries ahead of anything the Council had. Our surveillance network is working perfectly, she replied. We're receiving data from all Council worlds. The surveillance network was one of humanity's greatest achievements. Thousands of tiny quantum-linked devices had been secretly placed on every important planet in Council space. They sent back a constant stream of information. And what have we learned? Asked Junho. Mina displayed a holographic map of Council space. The Council is in disarray. 3 member species have started civil wars over resources. Their technology has barely changed since they banished us. They're still using the same ships, the same weapons, the same everything. Junho nodded. This was exactly what they had expected. The council races changed slowly, thought slowly, developed slowly. It was why they had feared humanity's rapid progress. And our capabilities? He asked. Mina's face showed pride as she reported. We now have 17 sanctuary dimensions. Our population has grown to 15 billion. Manufacturing capacity is 8,000% higher than before the banishment. And Project Transcendence is ready for deployment. Project Transcendence was humanity's masterpiece. A way to bring the benefits of their advanced technology to other races without revealing all their secrets. Junho turned to Communications Officer Sung-Ho Kim. Send the signal to President Ha-Jun. It's time. Sung-Ho nodded and sent the message through their quantum network. The response came back almost instantly. The President approves. Operation New Dawn is now active. Junho felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. After 10 years of preparation in normal space, 500 years in sanctuary time, they were ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy again. Not as the banished race, but as something new and powerful. Set course for the first deployment site, he ordered. The Ascendant hummed quietly as it moved toward a dimensional gate. Unlike traditional space travel, they wouldn't fly across the galaxy. They would simply step through doors that connected different points in space. As the ship approached the swirling blue portal, Junho thought about what they were about to do. It was risky. The Council might react with fear or anger, but humanity was ready for any response now. The Ascendant entered the portal and reality shifted around them. High Counselor Morvax was having a bad day. The representatives from the Credari and Voltar systems were arguing again about mining rights. 3 other council members hadn't even bothered to attend the meeting, and reports from the border regions showed increasing pirate activity. The council chamber on planet Harmonex was only half full. The grand hall that had once hosted representatives from 50 species now seemed empty and quiet. Order, Morvax said tiredly. We must have order to proceed. Suddenly the floor trembled. The lights flickered, and in the center of the chamber the air began to shimmer and twist. Guards rushed in with weapons drawn, but they stopped in confusion as a strange object formed in the middle of the room. It was a tall black monolith about 3 meters high, perfectly smooth except for a small circle of lights near the top. Similar reports began coming in from across council space. On 57 worlds, identical monoliths had appeared at exactly the same moment. They stood in city centers and government buildings, even in private council members' homes. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Councillor Azarath, his snake-like body rising in alarm. The circle of lights on the monolith began to glow. Then a holographic image appeared above it, the face of a human. Greetings, peoples of the Galactic Council, said the human. I am President Ha-Jun Kim of the United Human Territories. 10 years ago, you cast humanity aside, fearing what we might become. Today, we extend our hand once more, not as supplicants, but as equals. Morvax stood frozen, staring at the human face. 10 years had passed since the banishment order. The human should have looked older, but he didn't. If anything, he looked younger and healthier than before. Each monolith contains technology that will eliminate energy scarcity on your worlds, continued President Ha-Jun. Consider it a gift and an invitation to a summit 1 month from now at the coordinates being transmitted now. Come see what humanity has become. The hologram vanished. The monolith remained silent and mysterious. Across council space, scientists cautiously examined the monoliths. What they found astonished them. Each contained a power generator unlike anything they had seen before. It pulled energy directly from the quantum fabric of space itself, providing nearly limitless clean power. It was technology the council races had theorized about but never achieved. And humans were giving it away as a gift, aboard the Ascendant. Junho received reports from their surveillance network. The monoliths have all been deployed successfully, reported Mina. All are functioning at optimal levels. The council races are examining them exactly as we predicted. Junho nodded. And their reactions? Confusion mostly. Some fear, some excitement. Their scientists are already trying to understand how the power sources work. Junho smiled slightly. They won't figure it out. Not for centuries. We're giving them the gift, but not the knowledge to reproduce it. The council leadership is meeting right now to discuss our invitation, added Sung-Ho. Our surveillance shows they are divided. Some want to ignore us. Others are curious. Cowed, and what about Project Transcendence? Asked Junho. Mina checked her neural interface. Dr. Haijin reports that all systems are ready. New Olympus Station can be revealed whenever the president gives the order. New Olympus was humanity's greatest achievement, a massive space station built entirely within the largest sanctuary dimension. It was designed to serve as humanity's new center in the galaxy. Unlike the hidden sanctuaries, New Olympus would be visible to all, a statement of what humanity had become. "Now we wait," said Jun-Ho. 1 month until the summit. Time enough for curiosity to overcome fear. On Earth, President Ha-Joon Kim met with the original architects of humanity's resurgence. Tae-ho Park was now an old man, his hair white, his face lined with age. Beside him sat Ji-un Kim, equally aged but still sharp-minded. Sung-min Cho and Hye-jin Kang were there too, looking much younger thanks to the advanced medical technology developed in the sanctuaries. "The monoliths are deployed," said Ha-Joon. "The council has received our invitation. Phase 1 is complete." Tae-ho nodded slowly. "After all these years of waiting, it's finally happening. How does it feel to make history, Mr. President?" Ha-Joon smiled. "I'm just continuing what you started. You kept humanity's hope alive when the council tried to contain us. And now?" asked Ji-un. "What happens when they see what we've become? Will they fear us even more?" "Probably," said Ha-Joon. "At first. But fear can turn to respect and respect to partnership. We're not seeking revenge. We're offering a new beginning." Sung-min gestured to a holographic display showing the monoliths deployed across council space. "The power technology we've given them will transform their worlds. Energy has been a limiting factor for many council races. This gift will change everything for them," Hye-jin added. "And it's just the beginning. We have medical technology that can extend their lives, environmental systems that can heal damaged worlds, ships that can travel without the hyperspace lanes they depend on. But most importantly," said Ha-Joon, "we have a new vision for the galaxy, not the council's stagnant order, but a cooperative where all species can grow and develop at their own pace." Tae-ho looked out the window at the Earth below. It was still beautiful, still home. But humanity had grown beyond one world now. They had created their own spaces, their own futures. "I wonder what the council representatives will think when they see New Olympus," he said quietly. "They'll be shocked," said Ji-un with a small smile. "As they should be. It's not every day you discover that the people you banished have surpassed you entirely." In the following weeks, the council worlds buzzed with activity and debate. The mysterious monoliths continued to function perfectly, providing power to cities and settlements across the galaxy. Scientists tried to understand how they worked but made little progress. The technology was too advanced. Council leaders argued about how to respond to the human invitation. The day of the summit arrived. Council ships from dozens of worlds traveled to the coordinates humans had provided. They expected to find a planet or maybe a small space station. Instead, they found empty space. High Counselor Morvax stood on the bridge of the council's flagship, the Grand Authority. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion as he stared at the view screen. "There's nothing here," he said. "Scan again." The ship's sensors swept the area once more. "No planets, no stations, no ships detected," reported the sensor officer. Counselor Azarath's forked tongue flicked out nervously. Could it be a trap? Before anyone could answer, a message came in from another council ship. "High Counselor, something is happening." On the view screen, space itself seemed to ripple and fold. A blue light appeared, growing larger until it formed a swirling portal about 2 kilometers across. From this portal emerged 5 ships of a design the council had never seen before. The ships were sleek and silver, with no visible engines or weapons. They moved with impossible grace, surrounding the council vessels in a loose formation. "We are being hailed," said the communications officer, her voice shaking. Morvax straightened his ceremonial robes. On screen, the face of a human appeared. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council. I am Fleet Commander Jun-Ho Yoon of the United Human Territories. Welcome to our meeting place. If you will follow my ships, we will escort you to New Olympus." "Follow you where?" demanded Morvax. "There is nothing here." Jun-Ho smiled slightly. "There will be. Please watch." The human ships moved toward the swirling portal. As the council representatives watched in amazement, something massive began to emerge from the blue light. First came spires of gleaming metal, then great curved sections of what looked like a space station, but larger than any station the council had ever built. More and more of it appeared until the full structure was visible. New Olympus was a wonder. A massive ring-shaped station over 20 kilometers across with a central hub connected to the ring by 5 great spokes. Gardens and parks were visible through clear sections of the outer ring. Cities seemed to cling to the inner curve, and at the center a massive dome of what looked like pure crystal glowed with its own light. "By the first stars," whispered Morvax. "How is this possible?" Junho's face remained on the screen.
"This is New Olympus, humanity's new home in the stars."
"Please dock your vessels at the marked bays. President Ha-Joon Kim awaits you in the Grand Assembly." The council ships approached the massive station cautiously. Up close it was even more impressive. What had looked like metal from a distance was actually a material none of them recognized. It seemed to shift and change color as they watched, like it was alive. As they docked, council representatives from a dozen different species prepared to disembark. They were a mix of the curious, the cautious, and the concerned. None knew what to expect. Morvax led the group into the station where they were met by human guides wearing simple white uniforms. The interior of New Olympus was even more amazing than the exterior. The corridors were wide and filled with light. Plants grew along the walls and ceilings. The air smelled fresh and clean. And everywhere humans moved about their business looking healthy and happy. "This way, please," said their guide, a young woman named Subin. "The president is waiting in the Grand Assembly." As they walked, Morvax couldn't help but notice the technology around them. Doors opened before anyone touched them. Information appeared on walls when people looked at them. Robots moved among the humans helping with various tasks. "How long have you been building this?" he asked Subin. "New Olympus was completed 3 years ago," she replied with a smile. "Impossible," said Counselor Azarath. "A station this size would take a century to build." Subin just smiled and kept walking. They entered a massive chamber. The Grand Assembly was a huge circular room with a domed ceiling that seemed to show the actual stars outside, but clearer and brighter. Seats arranged in rising tiers surrounded a central platform. On that platform stood a group of humans. At their center was President Ha-Joon Kim, looking exactly as he had in the hologram message. Beside him stood an old human that Morvax recognized after a moment, Admiral Tae-ho Park, who had received the banishment order a decade ago. But Tae-ho looked much older now, while Ha-Joon appeared unchanged. It was strange. President Ha-Joon stepped forward. "Representatives of the Galactic Council, welcome to New Olympus. 10 years ago, you ordered humanity to withdraw from galactic affairs. Today we invite you to see what we have become in that time." Morvax moved to the center of the room, facing Ha-Joon. "What is this place? How did you build something so large without our knowledge?" "That's a long story," said Ha-Joon with a smile. "One we'll be happy to share. But first let us show you what humanity has achieved." The tour of New Olympus left the council representatives speechless. They saw medical facilities where diseases were cured in minutes. Manufacturing centers where objects were created from pure energy. Transportation systems that made traditional ships seem primitive. In one lab, they watched as a human scientist regrew a patient's missing limb in seconds. In another, they saw food being created from nothing but energy. Everywhere they looked, they saw technology that seemed like magic. "This is impossible," Morvax kept saying. "You cannot have developed this much in 10 years. Finally, they were brought to a special observatory dome. Here, Ha-Joon gathered them for an explanation. "When you banished humanity, you feared our rate of progress," he began. "You worried about what we might become. So we decided to show you," he gestured, and the dome turned transparent, revealing not stars, but a swirling mix of colors. This station exists partially in normal space and partially in what we call a sanctuary dimension, a pocket of space-time we created where time flows differently. For every year that passed for you, 50 passed for us. Azarath hissed in shock. "You're saying you've experienced 500 years of development since you banished us," confirmed Ha-Joon. "Yes. We took your punishment and turned it into our greatest opportunity." He touched a control, and holographic images appeared around them. Images of huge cities inside other sanctuary dimensions, vast fleets of advanced ships, and billions of humans living and working in spaces they had created themselves. "We have 17 sanctuary dimensions now, each one home to hundreds of millions of humans. We've built a civilization outside normal space-time, beyond your reach, beyond your understanding." Morvax sank into a seat, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "Why show us this? To threaten us? To prepare us for war. Hajun shook his head. No, to offer partnership. This caught the council representatives by surprise. They had expected threats or demands. The monoliths we sent to your worlds are just the beginning, Hajun continued. We have solutions for all the problems facing council species. Clean energy, medical advances, environmental restoration, faster transportation. And what do you want in return? Asked Azarath suspiciously. Recognition, said Hajun simply. Acknowledgement of our right to exist in this galaxy as equals, and a commitment to progress rather than stagnation. Old Admiral Tejo stepped forward, leaning slightly on a cane. 10 years ago, you feared what humanity might become. You tried to cage us, to limit us. Instead, you forced us to evolve faster, to reach higher. He pointed to the view of the sanctuary dimension outside the dome. We could have used this technology to build weapons, to return and conquer the council worlds. We have the capability, but that's not who we are. Instead, continued Hajun, we're offering to share our advances. Not all at once, you're not ready for that. But gradually, to help lift all species to new heights. The council representatives looked at each other in confusion and suspicion. This was not what they had expected at all. Councillor Drav, the rock-like being, spoke for the first time. How do we know this isn't some trick? Some illusion to make us lower our guard? Hajun smiled. You've seen the monoliths on your worlds. That technology alone is centuries ahead of anything the council has. And it works, doesn't it? Your scientists have confirmed that. Morvac stood up slowly, his age showing in his movements. What exactly are you proposing, President Hajun? The dissolution of the current Galactic Council and the formation of something new, a galactic cooperative, where innovation is celebrated, not feared. Where species work together as true equals, not with some dictating to others. He gestured and a new hologram appeared, a complex document with many sections. This is our proposal, a new charter for a new organization. We've spent decades crafting it to be fair to all species, to protect rights and encourage cooperation. We invite you to study it, suggest changes, and then decide. Morvax looked at the document, then back at Hajun. And if we refuse? If we maintain the council as it is? Hajun's face grew serious. Then humanity will continue on its own path. We'll remain in our sanctuary dimensions, developing even further beyond you. And in time, the gap between us will become so great that meaningful interaction will be impossible. He let that sink in, then added, but more importantly, you'll miss an opportunity to solve the problems that are already tearing the council apart. We've been watching. We know about the resource wars, the collapsing ecosystems on 7 of your worlds, the growing tensions between member species. 3 months passed quickly. Throughout council space, debates raged about the human proposal. The monoliths continued to provide clean, unlimited power to dozens of worlds. Scientists studied them but couldn't understand how they worked. The technology was simply too advanced. On 7 planets suffering from environmental damage, mysterious packages arrived. Inside each was a small device with simple instructions. When activated, the devices began cleaning the air, water, and soil. Within weeks, planets that had been slowly dying began to heal. No one claimed responsibility for these gifts, but everyone knew they came from humans, on New Olympus, now permanently anchored in normal space as a symbol of human openness. President Hajun Kim and his advisors waited for the council's decision. They're arriving, announced Fleet Commander Jun Ho Yoon, as ships began appearing near the station. One by one, vessels from every council world dropped out of hyperspace. There were more than had come to the first meeting. Word had spread about human achievements, and many were curious to see for themselves. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, President Hajun welcomed them all. High Counselor Morvac stepped forward to speak. President Hajun, representatives of humanity, we have considered your proposal carefully. We have studied the charter for your galactic cooperative. We have debated long and hard. The room was completely silent as everyone waited for the decision. The Galactic Council, by unanimous vote, has decided to dissolve itself. A murmur of surprise went through the human observers. They had expected agreement but not unanimity. In its place, continued Morvax, we accept the formation of the Galactic Cooperative as outlined in your charter, with the amendments we suggested. Hajun smiled broadly. The amendments are acceptable. We welcome you all as founding members of the cooperative. The chamber erupted in applause and cheers. After 10 years of exile, humanity had not only returned to galactic society but had transformed it entirely. As the celebration continued, Morvax approached Hajun privately. "There is something I must know," said the aging alien. "You could have conquered us all. Your technology is centuries beyond ours. Why didn't you?" Hajun's smile faded. "Because that's not who we are, Morvax. Humans can be aggressive, yes. Competitive, certainly. But we're also cooperative. We build things together. We solve problems together. That's our greatest strength." Morvax nodded slowly. "We feared you would become conquerors. Instead you became elevators." "Elevators?" asked Hajun, confused. "Yes. You lift others up with you as you rise. It is not what we expected." 1 year later, the former council chamber on neutral planet Harmonex stood empty. Its members had unanimously voted to dissolve the ancient institution and join the new galactic cooperative headquartered on New Olympus. In her private office on New Olympus, Chancellor Ji-Yoon Kim reviewed the progress reports with satisfaction. Though she was now over 80 years old, advanced medical technology kept her mind sharp and her body healthy. 17 former council worlds had adopted human educational systems. Trade volume between species had increased by 300%. And most importantly, the first non-human scientists were beginning training to enter the sanctuary dimensions for accelerated research. A chime announced the arrival of Elder Morvax, former High Counselor, now serving as cultural liaison for the cooperative. "Chancellor," he said with a respectful bow, "I must confess something that has troubled me." "Speak freely." "Elder," Jian replied, "when we banished humanity, we truly believed we were protecting the galaxy's stability. We never imagined you would advance so far so fast." He hesitated. "Some still fear you will eventually subjugate us all." Jian smiled gently. "A valid concern given history, but that was never our goal, Morvax." She activated a hologram showing hundreds of species working together on massive projects throughout the galaxy. New cities being built, damaged planets being healed, ships of mixed crews exploring new regions of space. Humans don't want an empire. We simply refuse to accept artificial limitations. The council tried to clip our wings, so we built a launch pad instead. Now everyone can fly higher. Together. Morvax nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his ancient eyes. "You could have conquered us with your technological superiority." "We could have," agreed Admiral Tejo, entering the chamber. Though now 90 years old, he too had benefited from human medical advances and still moved with purpose. But then we would have merely replaced one flawed system with another. Instead, we chose to elevate everyone. Ji-Yun smiled at her old friend. They had been there at the beginning, when the Council had ordered humans to withdraw from galactic affairs. They had helped plan humanity's response, and now they were seeing the results of their work. "How is the technology exchange program going?" she asked Morvax. "Better than expected," the elder alien replied. "The simpler innovations are being integrated smoothly. The quantum communication network has been upgraded on 30 worlds so far. The medical devices are saving millions of lives. And the educational initiatives? 22 species have now adopted the human learning acceleration methods. The results are impressive. Young learners are advancing twice as fast." Ji-Yun nodded with satisfaction. "And what about the dimensional physics program? Are non-human scientists making progress?" "Slowly," admitted Morvax. "The concepts are challenging for many, but there are some promising students. A young Voltar mathematician and a Credari physicist have both shown aptitude." "Good. We need diverse perspectives on dimensional research. Humans don't have all the answers." As night fell on New Olympus, the lights of thousands of ships from hundreds of species illuminated the darkness. Vessels from formerly hostile worlds now docked side by side. Species that had once competed now collaborated. In the observatory dome, Director Sungmin Cho, now well into his second century of life, watched a group of alien children learning alongside human youths. They were designing their own mini-sanctuary experiment under the guidance of Professor Hyejin Kang. "Look at them," said Sungmin to Hyejin. "Who would have thought our greatest achievement would be educational rather than technological?" Hyejin smiled. "Technology is just a tool. Knowledge is what matters. And now we're sharing it with everyone. The children, human, Credari, Voltar, Slick, and a dozen other species, worked together on their project. Their differences forgotten in their shared excitement. It's amazing how quickly they've adapted to working together, observed Hyejin. Children always adapt faster than adults, replied Sungmin. That's why the future belongs to them. He watched as a young Slick, a snake-like alien whose people had once been among humanity's strongest critics, helped a human child with a complex equation. The cooperation happened naturally, without thought or hesitation. I still remember the day the council ordered us to leave their space, said Sungmin quietly. I was so angry, so hurt. I wanted to prove them wrong. And you did, said Hyejin. We all did, Sungmin shook his head. No, we did something better. We proved ourselves right. We showed that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our ability to extend a hand to others, even those who once rejected us. From the observatory, they could see Earth in the distance. The human homeworld was still beautiful, still special, but it was no longer humanity's only home. Through the sanctuary dimensions and outposts like New Olympus, humans had spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as partners. On the other side of New Olympus, Fleet Commander Junho Yoon stood in the command center, watching the traffic around the station. Ships of all designs and origins moved in careful patterns, guided by the station's advanced systems. Commander, said Science Officer Mina Choi, approaching with a datapad. The latest survey results from the Outer Rim. Junho reviewed the information. Teams of human and non-human explorers were charting regions of space the Council had never visited. They were finding new worlds, new resources, and sometimes new forms of life. Any problems? He asked. None. The mixed crews are performing excellently. The Voltar navigator on the horizon actually plotted a more efficient route than our computer suggested. Junho smiled. Different perspectives lead to better solutions. That's why we're stronger together. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited, new mysteries to solve, new heights to reach, but humans wouldn't face them alone anymore. In the presidential office on New Olympus, Hajun Kim met with Admiral Taeho Park. The old friends sat together, looking at a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light representing worlds and stations. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Asked Hajun. When they banished us, did you think we'd end up here? Taeho chuckled. Never. I thought we'd develop in secret, then return with overwhelming force to demand our place. I underestimated your wisdom in seeking cooperation instead of domination. Hajun shook his head. Not my wisdom, humanity's wisdom. We've learned through our long history that building together works better than conquering. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the map as new data points appeared. New colonies, new trade routes, new discoveries. The Council tried to banish humanity, said Taeho softly. Instead, we rose higher than they ever imagined. But the true victory wasn't rising above them. It was bringing everyone along with us.